In this video, we're going to talk about what is changing and what's staying the same on the ISC2 Certified in Cybersecurity exam, the CC, after the September 2026 exam update. I made this video so you can make an informed decision on when to take the exam and what you actually need to study. And just to be clear up front, we have the new exam outline. It's high level, it tells us what topics are in and what's out, but it doesn't give us every detail on how deep the exam is going to go, so we know the big picture. The fine print, we don't know yet. Hi, I'm 𝗤𝗏𝗏𝗏. I'm a CISSP, a CISM, and certified in cybersecurity instructor. I have over 750,000 students enrolled in my courses from more than 200 countries around the world. If you're studying for the CC, CISSP, or CISM, you can find my courses at ThorTeaches.com or on Udemy. So let's start with the exam itself, the practical stuff. How long, how many questions, what format? And here's the short version. None of that is changing. It'll still be 2 hours. Still 100 to 125 questions. Still multiple choice and advanced item types. Still 700 out of 1,000 to pass. Still Pearson VUE. Still available in English, Chinese, Japanese, German, and Spanish. So if you were worried the exam was going to get longer or harder to sit, it's not. Same format, same testing experience. What will change is the domain weights, and those are worth paying attention to because they tell you where to focus your study time. Domain 1 is currently called Security Principles, and it'll keep that name, but it will drop from 26% down to 24%. So it'll still be the heaviest weighted domain, just slightly less than it is right now, 2% less. Domain 2 is where you'll see the biggest jump. Right now, it's called Business Continuity, Disaster Recovery, and Incident Response Concepts, and it sits at 10%, the lightest domain on the current exam. Under the new outline, it's going to be renamed Security Governance, and the weight will go up to 17.3%. And that makes sense, because the domain is getting a lot more content. More content, more weight. Worth knowing. Domain 3 will drop a bit. Right now, it's Access Control Concepts at 22%. It's going to be renamed Identity and Access Management Concepts, IAM, and the weight will go down to 20%. 2% less. Not dramatic, but the content is actually expanding. So don't let that drop fool you into thinking you can study it less. Domain 4 will go from 24% down to 21.3%. Currently called Network Security, it's going to be renamed Networking and Cloud Security Concepts, with an entire Cloud Security section added in. So more content, slightly less percentage weight. And Domain 5 will go from 18% down to 17.3%. Right now, it's Security Operations. Under the new outline, it'll be Security Operations and Incident Response, because IR is moving in from the current Domain 2. More content, very similar weight. So the quick takeaway, the exam format isn't changing at all. The domain weights will shift, with Domain 2 seeing the biggest move. And 4 out of the 5 domain names will be different from the 2023 version, which we'll get into right now. Now let me answer the questions I know you're going to have, because we get these every single time an exam updates. Should I take the exam before or after the change? If it was me, I would take it before the change. And here's why. The changes in the 2026 outline are not small. We've got domain names changing, content moving around, entire new sections added. Right now, we know the full current curriculum. We have videos, study guides, practice questions. Everything is aligned to the 2023 outline. We know the format of the exam, but there are always changes. We don't know where. So testing on something that is known is, in my mind, better than something less known. Next, the question of, do I need to rebuy your course if I already have it? No. Like I always do, I update my courses in place. If you have my CC course on Udemy or ThorTeaches.com already, you get the update for free. I'm not going to put out a brand new course and make you pay again. I'm going to update what's there. The new content will be added a few months before the change, nothing removed. Then when the exam is live, we remove whatever we think is no longer needed. Will my current study materials still work for the updated exam? To be honest, partially. The CC has changed more this time than I've seen in some other exams. The core concepts are still the same. CIA triad, access controls, encryption, incident response, that's not going anywhere. But some domains got restructured pretty significantly, and there's genuinely new content in there. My guess is your existing materials will cover maybe 80 to 85% of it. The gaps are real, so you'll want to look at the new topics, especially in domains 2, 4, and 5. When will updated materials be available? For my courses, I'm aiming to have new lessons on the added content ready before the exam changes. I'll do the new stuff first, then go back and clean up anything that needs refreshing. For other trainers, books and practice question banks. I honestly have no clue, but typically 3 to 6 months after the exam goes live. That's just how it's always worked. ISC2's own materials are usually out faster, but take that with a grain of salt. Is there a price change? Not that I know of, and one thing worth noting, the CC exam from ISC2 is still free for members. That's a big deal for an entry-level cert. I don't expect that to change, but check the ISC2 website for the latest. All right, let's get to the actual changes. I'm going through all 5 domains. Where there are no changes, I'll say so and we'll move on. Where there are real changes, I'll tell you what's changing, what it means, and how much you should care. Domain 1 will keep its name, Security Principles, and the good news is most of it is staying the same. The core concepts are all still there. Confidentiality, integrity, availability, non-repudiation, privacy, nothing's going away. The main topic level rename is 1.1. Right now it's called Understand the Security Concepts of Information Assurance. In the new outline, it'll be Understand Cybersecurity Concepts. That's a rename, not a content change. Same stuff, cleaner label. And in 1.1.4, where right now we have just authentication, methods of authentication, MFA, the new version will have the full AAA, authentication, authorization, and accounting. That's a small but real expansion, and AAA is something we've absolutely talked about before. It'll just get its own spot, which makes sense because it's foundational. I normally call it IAAA because we really need identification before we can authenticate, authorize, and hold accountable. In 1.2, we'll go from Understand the Risk Management Process to Understand Risk Management Concepts. And 1.2.1 will change from Risk Management, Risk Priorities, Risk Tolerance to Risk Management Lifecycle. That's a more structured framing, looking at risk as a cycle, not just a snapshot. Same idea, slightly broader lens. Risk identification, assessment, and treatment will all still be in 1.2.2, just renamed Risk Management Processes. Right now, 1.3 is Understand Security Controls, and 1.5 is Understand Governance Processes. In the 2026 outline, those are getting shuffled. Governance will move up to 1.3, and controls will move to 1.4. So the numbering shifts, but the content is all still there. What is genuinely new in Domain 1 is 1.3.2, Frameworks and Guidelines. That'll get its own bullet point. And in practice, this isn't new content. We're talking NIST, ISO, CIS. If you've taken our CC before, you've seen these frameworks come up. We already cover them. They just aren't explicitly called out in the 2023 outline. The other new addition is 1.5.2, Due Care and Due Diligence. And again here, nothing really new. In our current course, we talk about due care and due diligence 20+ times. Now they'll just have their own explicit bullet point under 1.5, the section on professional and ethical conduct. Makes sense to group them there. So Domain 1 overall, minor reorganization, a couple of small additions, no major surprises. If you've already studied Domain 1, you'll mostly be fine. Domain 2 is where we'll see the biggest structural change in the entire exam. Right now, Domain 2 is called Business Continuity, Disaster Recovery, and Incident Response Concepts. In the 2026 outline, it's going to be renamed Security Governance. That's a significant shift, and it comes with a real change in what the domain will cover. Let me break this down. BC and DR aren't disappearing. They'll still be on the exam. They're just moving under a new structure. They'll live under 2.2, which will be called Understand Redundancy, with 2.2.1 for BC and 2.2.2 for DR. So if you've already studied BC and DR for the 2023 exam, that knowledge is still valid. You'll just need to understand it'll sit inside a broader governance-focused domain. Incident response is also moving, and that's a bigger shift. Right now, IR is 2.3 inside Domain 2. In the 2026 outline, IR will move to 5.3 inside Domain 5, Security Operations and Incident Response. Logically, that makes more sense, right? IR is an operational function. It belongs in operations. But if you studied it as a Domain 2 topic, it's the same content. It'll just live somewhere else. Now for what's actually new in Domain 2. There will be a brand new section, 2.1, Plan Governance, Risk and Compliance, or GRC. This covers purpose, importance, and frameworks and tools. GRC isn't explicitly on the 2023 CC outline at this level. At its core, it's about how organizations align their governance structures, manage risk, and meet compliance obligations in a coordinated way. Things like NIST RMF, ISO 27001, 𝗄𝗏𝗏𝗃, those are GRC frameworks. My guess is the exam won't go deep on implementation here. It's entry level, but you should understand what GRC is and why it matters. Also new in Domain 2 will be 2.3, Security Awareness, and this one is a move, not a pure addition. In the 2023 outline, Security Awareness training is 5.4 in Domain 5. It'll move to Domain 2, and under it we'll have a genuinely new subtopic, 2.3.1, Organizational Culture. That's specifically about the importance of security culture and security leadership. We've talked about this in context before, but now it'll have its own bullet. So expect a question or two on what security culture actually means and why it matters beyond just running phishing simulations. And then there's 2.4, Measure Cybersecurity Effectiveness. This is new content. 2.4.1 will be Key Metrics and Key Risk Indicators, and 2.4.2 will be Dashboards, Scorecards, and Reports. At the CC level, I don't think you'll need to know how to build a security dashboard from scratch. But you should understand what a KRI is, what kinds of metrics we use to measure security effectiveness, and what the purpose of a security scorecard is. These are concepts you'd encounter on day one in a security role, so it makes complete sense that they're going onto an entry-level certification. So Domain 2 will be the most changed domain. New name, new GRC section, IR moving out, BC and DR staying, security awareness moving in, and new content on measuring effectiveness. If you're studying for the 2026 exam, Domain 2 will need some dedicated attention. Domain 3 is currently called Access Controls Concepts. In the 2026 outline, it'll be renamed Identity and Access Management Concepts, IAM, and that name change tells you a lot about what's coming. The 2023 version is mostly about controlling access. The 2026 version will broaden that into the full identity management picture. It makes sense, really. The CISSP uses the same naming for Domain 5 because we don't have a full picture if we only focus on access management and ignore identity management. So the big addition will be 3.1. Understand Identity Lifecycle Management. This entire section is new, 3.1.1 through 3.1.5. We're talking roles definition, provisioning, review, deprovisioning, and frameworks and tools. And in practice, this is very logical content. Think about what actually happens when someone joins an organization. We define their role. We provision access. We review that access periodically. When they leave, we deprovision. That's the identity lifecycle. It's foundational IAM, and the fact that it isn't explicitly on the CC outline right now is a little surprising. It will be starting September 1st, 2026. Now, while it is entirely new on the outline, it's not something we haven't seen before. We already covered the identity and access lifecycle in our current course. Many of the changes we are seeing for the 2026 update are things I already have in my 2023 course. It is not because I can see the future, it is just topics I felt were left out, giving students a less complete overview, disadvantaging them both on the exam and in their work. Because when you understand how it all connects, you can answer better, make better decisions. So, no psychic Thor, just me wanting to give you a higher chance of passing. Okay, back to the update. The Logical Access Control section, 3.2, will stay mostly the same. Least privilege is staying. Separation of duties is staying, just with a slightly different name. And then the access control models, 3.2.3. Right now, those are 3 separate bullet points, DAC, MAC, and RBAC. In the new outline, they'll be condensed into a single Access Control Models bullet. That doesn't mean you can skip one of them. You'll still need to know DAC, MAC, RBAC, and probably ABAC too. They're just consolidating the bullet points. One notable removal, Physical Access Controls, is currently 3.1 in the 2023 outline. Understand Physical Access Controls. That section will be gone from Domain 3, but physical security will still be on the exam. It'll just be covered in Domain 1 under Security Controls and Security Principles. so it's moving, not disappearing. Domain 3 overall, new name, new identity, lifecycle section coming in, access controls mostly intact, physical access moving to Domain 1. It's a real addition, but not scary if you understand IAM fundamentals. Next we have Domain 4, that is network security. In the 2026 outline, it'll be renamed Networking and Cloud Security Concepts. And that second word, cloud, is the big tell. This domain is getting an entire cloud section added to it, which is a significant addition. It makes sense. We use so many more cloud services in our organizations now, so we need to understand all the concepts better. The network security section, 4.1, will stay mostly intact. The concepts in 4.1.1 will still include the OSI model, TCP/IP, IPv4, IPv6. VPN will be called out explicitly in 4.1.1, and then 4.1.2 will be firewalls, consolidating what right now are separate bullet points for ports, applications, and prevention into one firewall-focused section. This also makes sense. Ports and applications are really just the context for how firewalls work. Then we'll have 4.1.3, wireless. Wi-Fi was actually mentioned in the current 4.1.1, so this is semi-new. It'll just get its own bullet, covering Wi-Fi and Bluetooth specifically. Also, it helps with the understanding that wireless can be a lot of things. It can be Zigbee, satellite, radio wave, really anything we can use for communication that, well, is wireless. And 4.1.4 will be embedded systems, ICS and IoT. That one is actually new, and it makes complete sense that they're adding it. IoT devices are everywhere now, and they have real security implications that an entry-level security professional needs to understand. Think about default credentials, unpatched firmware, and devices that can never be updated. We already have a dedicated IoT lecture and talk about it in another handful of lectures, but I am glad 𝗖𝗚𝗏 added it officially. In 4.2, the Network Security Architecture section will have some meaningful additions. Network segmentation is staying, expanded from the current 4.3.2, but we'll also get 4.2.2, Defense in Depth, and 4.2.3, Zero Trust. Now, Defense in Depth isn't a new concept. We've talked about layered security throughout the CC curriculum, but it'll have its own explicit bullet. The same with Zero Trust. We already cover it. It is the Never Trust, Always Verify model. It's become the standard framing for modern network security. The fact that it'll be explicitly on the 2026 outline tells you the exam is going to want you to know this, at least at a conceptual level. And then 4.3 will be the new cloud security section. All of it is new. 4.3.1 will cover cloud characteristics, broad network access, rapid elasticity, on-demand self-service. That's straight up NIST cloud definition territory. This is actual new content. Last time, they saw it as too technically deep, but apparently this time, that is no longer true. Makes sense, it is used so much more now. Then 4.3.2 and 4.3.3 will cover service models and deployment models, SaaS, IaaS, PaaS, public, private, and hybrid. They were on the 2023 exam outline. There is just more emphasis on them in the new outline. And then 4.3.4 is the one I think will matter most, the shared security model, roles and responsibilities in the cloud. Who's responsible for securing what when you're using the different types of cloud deployments? That's a concept every security professional needs to understand, and it'll be explicitly on the entry-level cert. I think that's a good move. My courses already cover this, but I will likely add some more content on it. One thing getting removed from Domain 4, the current 4.3.1 on on-premises infrastructure, power, HVAC, data center physical stuff. That whole section appears to be going away from Domain 4. Whether it partially survived somewhere else, I'm not sure. I'd assume it got absorbed or de-emphasized given the shift toward cloud. But in many environments, it is really a balance. What is secure enough in the cloud? What do we have to keep on-premise for latency reasons or for legal reasons or whatever reasons we have? So I think understanding data center basics is good. And the current 4.2, understand network threats and attacks, that content is moving. Threat types and attack concepts will be in Domain 5 under Security Operations. Again, it makes sense. Threats and attacks are operational topics. They should be in Domain 5. Domain 4 will have real new content. Cloud Basics, IoT, Zero Trust, but even our 2023 course covered those already. Finally, Domain 5, It is currently called Security Operations. In the 2026 outline, it'll be renamed Security Operations and Incident Response, which makes sense since they moved Incident Response from Domain 2. This will be the largest and most reorganized domain in the 2026 outline. A lot is moving in here. Data Security 5.1 will stay. And it's expanding a bit. Data Handling in 5.1.1 will add masking and sanitization, which aren't explicitly there right now. And Encryption in 5.1.2 will add quantum-resistant cryptography. Now that one is worth calling out. Quantum-resistant cryptography, also called post-quantum cryptography, is about developing algorithms that won't be broken by quantum computers. It's a hot topic right now because NIST just finalized their post-quantum standards. At the CC level, I don't think you'll need to explain the math, but you should know what it is and why it matters. Then we'll have 5.2, Understand Security Operations. This is a new top-level section. It'll consolidate and expand a bunch of stuff that's currently scattered. Logging and monitoring will move to 5.2.1 from 5.1.3 in the current outline. Same content, new home. Then 5.2.2 will be Security Event Triage, covering incident use cases, prioritization, and correlation. That's expanding from the IDS-focused content currently in Domain 4. And 5.2.3 will be Threat Actors, Types and Motivations. That's also coming from current Domain 4, where it's just Types of Threats. Adding motivations is a meaningful expansion. Knowing why attackers do what they do helps you understand how to defend against it. Then we'll have two genuinely new additions in 5.2, Cyber Threat Intelligence at 5.2.4, and Threat Frameworks at 5.2.5. Threat intelligence is about collecting and using information about current and emerging threats. And threat frameworks, that's going to mean things like MITRE ATT&CK. At the entry level, the exam assumes you'll probably need to know what these are and what they're used for, not how to operate a full threat intel program, but they'll be on the outline, so they're fair game. Then we'll have 5.3, Incident Response, moving in from current Domain 2. And if you've already studied IR under the current outline, the core content will be the same. What'll be new is 5.3.2, IR Exercises, Testing, and Tabletop. We already cover both in our 2023 course, but we will likely add a little to it. Because now it'll have its own bullet point, it has more exam importance. Tabletop exercises are worth knowing. It's where you walk through an incident scenario without actually doing anything, just to test your plan and find the gaps. You have people from all the relevant teams, both IT and operations. You then talk through an incident. How do we switch over? How do we continue if systems are down? Every team plays their part like it was a real incident. It is surprising how many gaps in our plans we find that way. In 5.4, the section name will change from System Hardening to Asset Protection. And there'll be a new subtopic, 5.4.1, Asset Lifecycle Management, including EOL software and devices. End-of-life devices and software are a real security risk. If you're running Windows Server 2008 and it's no longer getting patches, that's a problem. Configuration and change management will still be there in 5.4.2, just condensed from two current bullet points into one, and then there's 5.5. Understand security testing. This entire section will be new, all three subtopics. We'll have 5.5.1, security readiness testing, blue teaming, purple teaming, red teaming. Then there is 5.5.2, application testing, vulnerability scanning, static analysis, dynamic analysis, and finally threat modeling. And 5.5.3, physical penetration testing, phishing, tailgating, impersonation. Now, I have to be honest here. When I first read that, I thought, wait, what? Phishing is logical penetration testing, not physical, but regardless. ISC2, for whatever reason, chose to put it here, maybe just to call it out somewhere. I don't know. Domain 5 and Domain 2 are the most expanded and changed domains in this update. In Domain 5, a lot of it is genuinely new. Threat intelligence, threat frameworks, security testing, the full security operation structure. If you're planning to take the 2026 exam, spend real time on Domain 5. So these are all the changes. Before we continue, I want to make sure here you are not too overwhelmed. The CC is still very passable. It is not significantly harder, it just adds a little content. I still think you can study enough to pass it in a single week if you study full-time. But for most people who work or have school, Expect 3 to 4 weeks with a few hours on weekdays. So even with more advanced topics being added, they are still at an entry level, the CC level. Meaning, you won't need to know how to conduct a red team engagement. You'll need to know what red teaming is and what it's used for. Same with static versus dynamic analysis. Know the difference, know the purpose. All right. Let me give you a quick recap of what's changing. Most domain names and all domain weights are changing. Domain 1 keeps the security principal's name but drops 2% weight. Domain 2 goes from BC, DR, and IR concepts to security governance and nearly doubles its weight from 10% to 17.3%. Domain 3 goes from access controls concepts to IAM concepts and drops 2% exam weight. Domain 4 goes from network security to networking and cloud security concepts, drops 2.7% weight. And Domain 5 goes from security operations to security operations and incident response, dropping 0.7% weight. I have honestly never seen decimal exam weights before. It is a little weird. But 𝗖𝗓𝗏 can do whatever weird stuff they want. It is their exam. So quickly all the new stuff. The biggest additions, Domain 2 will get a whole GRC section and content on measuring cybersecurity effectiveness. Domain 4 will get an entirely new cloud security section, service models, deployment models, shared responsibility, cloud characteristics. Domain 5 will get security testing, red, blue, and purple teaming, vulnerability scanning, application testing, plus cyber threat intelligence and threat frameworks, and the identity lifecycle will be new in Domain 3. Finally, let's look at what is moving. Incident response is moving from Domain 2 to Domain 5. Security awareness training is moving from Domain 5 to Domain 2. Network threats content is moving from Domain 4 to Domain 5. Physical access controls are moving from Domain 3 to Domain 1. Honestly, this is both a larger update and a minor update. It is larger because of the domain weights, the changed domain names, and a lot of knowledge areas were expanded. Then some new topics were added. But in reality, it is minor. It is expected. You can see how many of the changes and updates we already had in our 2023 version of the course. They are just tweaking the exam to be more well-rounded, more aligned with now versus 3 years ago. We have more cloud, Zero Trust is more used, GRC gives you a fuller idea of how it all works together. The same with threat intelligence, definitely used a lot today. So all in all, a much better outline. Now, if you can take the 2023 exam before the cutover, I'd suggest doing it. But if you're starting fresh and you don't think you can make it, then study the 2026 outline. And as always, I'm going to get my course updated before the change goes live. If you already have it, you get the update for free. And if you don't, you can get the complete CC course on ThorTeaches.com/CC. Good luck, and I'll see you in class.